Hello YouTube, Genie here. Today we're going to be looking at the different types of ships and classes. So we currently have the fighter and the smaller fighter classes, which are like the Aurora, the 300i, the F-7 Hornet, the Avenger. Uh, we can probably consider the Cutlass in that smaller ship category. And then we've got the snub fighters like the M50, and all the way at the end we have the P-52 Merlin, which is right here. So those are the snub fighters. And we've got the mid-range transport ships, including the Freelancer and the Caterpillar. And on the mid to high range, we've got the Constellation, so we'll compare it with them. And we've got the Vandal Scythe, which is kind of a class of its own, so we're not going to compare it with anything because we don't know enough about it. The Aurora Essential, doesn't come with too much, so we're not going to compare it in any specific category. But here's the Aurora Legionnaire. So it's the fighter-based, or the more fighter-oriented Aurora. Then you've got your 325A, which is your fighter-based 300 series. And then you've got your F7A Hornet, along with the Avenger and the Cutlass. Now we'll compare these ships, put them all on the same screen. Just a quick look at them. On the lower end we have our Aurora Legionnaire, which in no way can really be completely ruled out of the fighter business in general. We do know it's very capable and can have it can have a large amount of weapons, so in no way just assume these ships outclass it. But it is going to be the smallest of our ships, with only a 5-meter height and an 18.5-meter length and 9-meter beam. The null cargo mass is 18.5 kilograms, which again makes it the smallest of our ships. It is quite definitely the smallest ship we have in the fighter ships, which could be a disadvantage, seeing as you can't have as many guns mounted all over it. But it can also be an advantage if it's more maneuverable and flown by a better pilot, even. So we know it's got a cargo capacity of 5 tons, but you can also increase that by adding on cargo containers to the bottom of the ship. We've seen that in the Aurora video, and that's not as much in speculation as other things about it. So we do know that for sure. So in cargo capacity, it could in fact have the largest cargo capacity. We're not completely sure of that. So it could indeed be a very large cargo capacity ship. The 325A, as far as we know, holds 8 tons. I don't know if that's going to change, or if it's modular and can add more, but that's also a fairly large amount of cargo. The F7A holds none. It holds 0 cargo. It's meant to be a carrier-based fighter, and we'll show more on the reasons for that later. We've got your Avenger, which is it's been around for a fairly long time. It's sturdy and reliable. It's got the 10-ton cargo bay, which is the largest base cargo bay of all these ships, tied with the Cutlass. It's got a fairly large cargo bay, and it is smaller than these two ships and the Cutlass. So we can imagine that this is probably a more maneuverable ship. Next, we can go down and look at the max power plant size. The max power plant size of the Aurora Legionnaire is a 2, which is the smallest as well. So again, we've got a smaller power plant, so it will be slightly outclassed in the amount of firing it can do. and the firing of larger weapons it can do as well. We don't know. I don't know how much the power plants are going to vary from size to size, but if there is a large difference between them, then it could indeed be outclassed. Now you've also got your ANR LR5 max overdrive engine or power plant. We don't know how to. I don't know how to compare that to the Waytech VHT2 Plus, but if these are both the same factory power plant size, then as long as someone hasn't upgraded their power plant, then you're pretty much on equal grounds. We do know that the 325A has a larger base engine right here. The TR4 is bigger than the TR3, and the Hornet has the same engine, the TR4. Now the Avenger, which is a smaller craft, has a larger engine. It's a T20 or is a TR5, so it is fairly large. It's also got the smaller power plant. It's equal to the 325A. So we've got that. The Hornet has the power plant size of 4, which is definitely larger than the 325 and the Avenger. So it's definitely it's a carrier-based fighter. So it's definitely got and it's got a lot more guns. It's the higher end ship for being a straight out fighter. If you're going head to head against a Hornet, you're definitely gonna have to avoid being hit by all of its massive amounts of guns and the fact that it can fire for longer. And the engine's not bigger than the 325 or the Avenger, but it is bigger than the Aurora. So you're definitely gonna have to make sure you know what you're doing when you're fighting one of these, because it is the tankier version. It's got larger shields, stronger hull, but it is also not a long range run type ship. It's meant to take and deal damage. So when you're out and about transporting cargo and shooting down other ships, it's definitely not going to be definitely not going to be an option for longer range type events. Whereas the Avenger, 325A, and the Aurora all are a bit longer range than the Hornet will be. We're pretty positive on that one, especially since it's got 0 cargo capacity. So you're not going to really, there's no point in you going long range with this unless you're dead set on taking something out that's in Vandal space or something, assuming you can make it that far. Now if we get on here, we can look at the additional equipment. We've got the only additional equipment on these smaller things are the store-alls. This comes with a store-all mini, which you can upgrade to a store-all medium or a store-all max, I believe are the different store-alls, which are just larger cargo capacity containers. We've got 4 Class 1 hardpoints on the Aurora LN and 4 missiles. These are heat-seeking missiles. There's 4 of them, and they're all mounted on the top of the cab. This one has 2 Class 1s, 1 Class 2, which is the mass driver, which has some maneuverability with the ways it can be faced. And then you've got 2 sets of 2 missiles, which are infrared. And then on the Hornet, you've got 2 Class 1s, 2 Class 2s, 2 Class 3s, and 4 Class 4s. So you've got a lot more weapons right here. It's got the larger amount of weapons. It's also got the larger shield if we look at it. We've got a Gorgon Defender All-Stop here, Gorgon Defender Force Wall here, and then the Gorgon Defender All-Stop FR, which we can imagine it's the larger of the shields because of the fact that unless of course the Force Wall is some amazing ship, but the Force Wall is some amazing shield, but we've been told that the Hornet is a tankier ship that can take hits and deal hits as well. So we can imagine that's the largest of these shields, where these, as far as we know, these could be on equal grounds. We're just not completely sure on these ones. So those are the shields. We don't know about the Avenger or the Cutlass shields. Those haven't been released. We've got down here we've got the 5 guns on the Avenger, 3 class 1s that face forward, and then 2 sets of rockets. And the Cutlass has 7 guns. It's got 2 that face forward, one that's got a little bit of maneuverability on it, 2 sets of missiles, and 2 class 4s. So the Cutlass is going to have a large amount of weapons. Not as many as the Hornet will, but it will have a large amount of weapons. And then finally we'll look back at the Max Crew. These all are 1-person ships, with the exception of the Cutlass, which I believe that's due to the fact that it's going to be a pirating ship. You're going to need a second person to fly that ship you just captured, you know. So those are kind of the fighter-based ships, and we're going to go ahead and end the video on that. This has been Death Genie. Like if you like the video, and subscribe for more. Bye.